You know when you have a crush and your friends are like, just tell her. The worst she can do is say no. Well, they lied to you, because she can also laugh in your face. And if you don't believe me, just ask Alexander Pope. So, this painting by William Frith, Pope makes love to Lady Mary Wortley Montagu. Sounds like a scandal, right? But hold up. Makes love meant something completely different back in the day. No need to hide your screen. It just means professes love. Relax. And, just to clear up any confusion, this isn't the Pope, as in the Vatican. It's Alexander Pope, the poet. And yes, he got friend-zoned so badly, we're still talking about it centuries later. Meet Mary. Born in 1689 to an aristocratic family, she had a classic rich kid storyline. Mum dies, dad's too busy being rich to actually raise her, so he ships her and her siblings off to the family estate. Sounds cozy, right? Well, little Mary decided, hey, I'm going to teach myself Latin and Greek. You know, for fun. This was not the done thing for girls back then, and she totally got in trouble for it. But Mary was a rebel. And honestly, who doesn't love a bookworm with a wild streak? Fast forward to her 20s. Mary started writing letters to her friend, Anne Wortley. Then, enter Anne's brother, Edward. He starts secretly writing back as his sister. And Mary? Oh, she knows what's up. After Anne passed away, Mary and Edward kept the letters going, and sparks were flying. But when Mary's dad heard about this love story, he was not impressed. He tried setting her up with some guy named Clotworthy Skeffington, yes, Clotworthy, but Mary took one look and swiped left. Instead, she and Edward eloped, sticking it to Daddy Dearest. Eventually, Mary and Edward land in London, where she meets a group of friends who love reading and writing as much as she does. Among them, Alexander Pope. Now, Pope and Mary seem like a match made in literary heaven. Same age, same humour, total poetry nerds, and both feeling like outsiders. Pope, bless his heart, had a rough go of things as a kid. He developed a severe spinal illness, leaving him with a hunchback and a full height of 4 feet 6 inches. So, yeah, not tall. And he was relentlessly bullied. But Pope didn't let that stop him. He became one of the top writers in England, which Mary probably admired. And Pope? Well, he was totally smitten. Then, in 1716, tragedy struck Mary. She caught smallpox. This wasn't just a bad flu. Smallpox was deadly, and her brother had already died from it. She got the full package of symptoms, high fever, and red bumps everywhere, which turned into blisters and deep scars. It even left her without eyelashes or eyebrows. She survived, though, and that was a miracle in itself. But her beauty, the thing her family prided her on, was basically gone. To make things worse, some shady publisher named Edmund Curll somehow got hold of her poems and published them without her permission. They became a bestseller, but Mary wasn't thrilled. Meanwhile, Pope was furious. He managed to bump into Curll and sneak an emetic into his drink, making the guy vomit in public. Pope was like a 1700s version of that one friend who goes to war with your ex on Twitter. But then, Mary and her husband were assigned to Turkey, and Pope thought, what if I never see her again? So before she left, he paid her a little visit and basically said, I like you so much, it's making me act weird around you. Ah, foreshadowing. Turkey, by the way, was amazing for Mary. She loved the culture, the people, and the fashion. Frith's painting even shows her wearing a Turkish shawl. While she's there, she notices that none of the women have smallpox scars. Why? Because they used a technique called variolation, where they exposed healthy people to a small amount of smallpox to build immunity. Mary was blown away. Meanwhile, Pope is writing love letters back in England, getting progressively more cringe. He even compares them to lovers secretly untying garters. She responds with travel stories, probably thinking, are we reading the same book here? Eventually, Mary returns to England and Pope is thrilled. He even sends her a romantic poem about lovers struck by lightning, which she coolly replies was probably for the best, since the relationship would have been disappointing. Ouch. At this point, Pope seems to have backed off, at least on the surface, but he still has a portrait of her in his house. Let's just say, not subtle. Mary, meanwhile, is back in London with big ideas. There's another smallpox outbreak, and she knows variolation is England's best shot. She even has her young daughter publicly undergo the procedure to get doctors' attention. People are totally grossed out, and Mary's reputation takes another hit. But by 1728, Pope and Mary's relationship hits a wall. More like a cliff, actually. Why? Here's what went down. According to Frith, one day Pope decided to make a big romantic confession to Mary. She was so taken off guard, she laughed. Right in his face. And that was it. From that day on, Pope was her sworn enemy. In the painting, you see Mary leaning against a table, laughing, completely composed. She's all cool confidence, pulling her dress, while Pope is sinking in his chair, dressed like he's going to a funeral. He's a total wreck, fists clenched, dark bags under his eyes, and looking haunted. It's not the best look, but Frith actually chose to leave out his hunchback here, out of some twisted respect. In the background, you see a small crown, hinting at Mary's aristocratic roots, some books representing their shared love of writing, and a couple of quills. One's even on the floor, maybe symbolising how Pope's been thrown aside, and in case we missed the vibe, there's also a tulip, a symbol of love, and a nod to the language of flowers that Mary popularised. When Frith displayed this painting, people hated it. They thought it was a slap in the face to Pope's legacy. But Frith said he just couldn't resist the drama of it all. And he wasn't wrong. The consuming rage on Pope's face next to Mary's laughter is absolute gold. As for Pope, well, let's just say he did not take the rejection well. He used his poetry to bully Mary, spreading rumours that she had kids with other men, even hinting that she had syphilis. And since people already thought her variolation obsession was bizarre, Pope doubled down by calling her poxed. Mary couldn't fight back publicly, but she co-wrote a couple of poems to throw some jabs at him. Pope never married and spent most of his life pining after women who didn't return his affection. So this whole fiasco with Mary was just the cherry on top. Alexander Pope died about 20 years before Mary, and when she heard about it, she said to her husband, "Well, at least now there's no one left who hates us." Talk about closure. In her later years, Mary's marriage to Edward was so boring they both had affairs to keep things interesting. She even moved to Italy for a while to be near one of her lovers, Francesco Algarotti, who was a solid 20 years younger. And in 1757, a visitor to her Venice home noticed a cabinet filled with books by Pope, Swift, and Bolingbroke. She told him, "Oh, those guys. Rascals, all of them. But it's satisfying to crap on them every day."